Today is November the 6th, 2024. This is the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Committee meeting for the Recreation Centers of Sun City West. This is our November committee meeting. My name is Dick Rhodes, and I am the chairman of the committee. And I am going to call this meeting to order. It is 1:30. If we could stand for those of you who can, and we'll pledge to the flag. Okay, we do have a quorum today. I do want to read some meeting procedural statements. This is kind of a housekeeping chore, but it's something that it's very important that we discuss or read. The governing board conducts all of its meetings, including committee meetings, in compliance with the Arizona Open Meetings laws per ARS 33-1804, and in concert with the RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Orders, will be followed consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. All questions and comments are directed to the committee chairperson. All comments are entertained at the discretion of the committee chairperson. Speakers shall state their name and their member number and speak in a courteous manner. The committee chairperson may limit commentary time and the number of commentators, speakers on any issues. The committee chairperson may also redirect commentary at individual agenda items to the general guest comments agenda line item, except when the committee has discussed the agenda item and the consensus or the agreement is sought. All fire and room safety precautions and regulations are strictly obeyed at all meetings per the guidance of the Arizona Fire and Medical Authority. The committee chairperson reserves the right to adjourn any meeting if the safety of the committee, meeting attendees, or others is deemed at risk, or if there is too much disruption to continue. After one verbal warning by the chairperson, the committee chairman also reserves the right to ask any meeting attendees to leave any meeting should their behavior be deemed dangerous or unacceptable. Disciplinary action may follow. Thank you for that. We're going to go ahead and proceed to item 2.01, the approval of the minutes of October the 9th, 2024. Do we have consensus on those minutes? Okay, so be it. They'll be accepted as published. We have a staff report, item 3.01. Mr. Gary Zarek is going to give us a Sports Pavilion and the bowling manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just started our 30th league this morning, and that gives us over 2,500 league members bowling in our center this year. We have one more league to start, and that does not include the SCW or the Red Pin. So we are close to 3,000 bowlers this season, and bowling is up substantially. We are up on league games, non-league games, total games bowled, and even in the pool room, we have become quite busy. We have a couple tournaments coming up. November 27th, we have what's called Gary's Turkey Shootout. And it is a no-tap tournament for our no-tap bowlers, and you must be a R.H. Johnson league bowler to compete in that event. And it's filled up at 120. We have 24 open spots still available, and that will be November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving at 11 a.m. We also will have what's called a Club 199, so you have to average under 200 to bowl in a tournament. It is December 26th, the day after Christmas at 1 p.m. And we're doing these tournaments because we have no leagues bowling those particular days because of holidays and whatnot. So we are trying to give the bowlers something a little bit more to do. And that's pretty much about it right now. Things are going great, and we're very busy.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Do we have any questions or comments from those in the audience? Do we have anybody online, Terry? Okay. Well, thank you for the report, Gary. Our next item is item 3.02. It's the Sports Pavilion September FYTD financial report. Mr. Cliff Swan.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here today. I'm going to share some financial results. These will be through September. So Mr. Zarek just presented an operations report through October. So he's just updating you real time on how we did in the month of October when it comes to bowling lineage. And then these will be the financial results. He's always run a month behind. So just want to clarify that. But these will be indicative of what we have just reported in terms of bowling lineage. So you can see for the month of September, year to date, so for the first 3 months of the year, July through September, 19,000 favorable in revenue, which is pretty good considering we're closed a half a month in August. So this is really good news for the first 3 months of the year. On the expense side, we're a little behind budget, and that's pertaining to mostly to wages and wages and benefits and taxes. And that really is indicative of putting a budget together based on the prior year. Unfortunately, when we were closed for a month and a half versus a half a month. So that's that could have been budgeted better, but fortunately, we're making up for that in revenue, and we'll see that even out as we work through the year. But 4,000 unfavorable to budget in terms of operating cash inflow outflow, and if you take a look at that and compare it to prior year, we're running 80,000 favorable in revenue. So having a much better first 3 months of the year, or the much better first quarter of the year. And you can see that reflected in the lineage, 18,000 additional lines of bowling compared to prior year through the first quarter of the year. And then if you look at the makeup of that lineage and we look at these are the individual bowling revenue line items when it comes to bowling. So we've got league bowling, member open, guest open, promotional, and then there's the CMP card that we sell to our league bowlers who are non-members. So if you look at that revenue, you can see we're up significantly, especially in member open bowling at 13,000 favorable to prior year. So this is the difference between last year's revenue for the year to date compared to this year's revenue, and 31,000 in league, which is just fantastic. So 52,000 or 51%. Increase in our lineage revenue compared to prior year through the first quarter. Looking at the expenses, again, these were anticipated because of the wage increases and budgeted items, but 23,000 increase in expenses for overall 57,000 favorable to prior year. So we're operating at a loss of 45,000 versus a loss of 102,000. Last year we finished the year at, I believe it was 90,000 favorable for the year, close to 100,000, and we're well on track for that this year. And that concludes the financial presentation for the first quarter of this fiscal year.
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee? Do we have any questions or comments from anyone in the audience? Terry, do we have anyone online? Cliff, thank you very much. We appreciate your help. We're going to proceed to new business. This is a little redundant, but just in the interest of keeping everybody updated as to what's happening specifically in Lizard Acres and actually the other items in the Sports Pavilion bowling alley. We do have a line item for a Lizard Acres update, and I'm going to ask Gary Zarek to comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I talked to Carl Wilhelm as to an update as to where we are. The plans are at the architect, and they have not been given to us yet. And he thought they were running a little bit behind, so he was going to make some communication contacts with them this week and give me an update. We are still on schedule, according to Carl, for sometime April of 2025 to start this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Any questions online? Thank you. The next item is a review of two policies, and I will take this opportunity before I ask for the report of the review to just to kind of summarize how we are reviewing the 5 policies that we're responsible for. All of the policies have been assigned for review. Some of them had 2 committee reviewers on it, and others just had 1. We have 2 for this month, 2 that will be reported on, and then in December we'll have 3. And so that will complete all of our assignments for policy review. So at that, I'm going to ask Mr. Falcone to give us his report on policy BO1,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having read thoroughly items 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 under policy B01, I would recommend to the committee that they stand as originally printed. Nothing stood out to me that would require any modifications whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee?
And I didn't hear from anybody in the community that had anything to say about that policy either.
Thank you. Mr. Kleckner?
I think that as we review these policy statements, we should have a clear understanding as to what the governing bylaws say about bowling. So I wanted to read that. It's just a short sentence, but I want to point out the difference between bowling and golf. Paragraph 4.18-17 says, and this is under general powers of the governing board, determine in what manner and to what extent senior non-residents of Sun City West living in neighboring communities may be extended association bowling privileges. And I want to highlight that that particular sentence says senior non-residents, not just non-residents, as opposed to 4.18-18, which deals with golf, says determine in what manner and to what extent non-residents of Sun City West living in the neighboring communities may be extended golf privileges. My point here is there is a clear distinction between bowling and golf, and that in golf, anybody can come and play if they meet other requirements, but in bowling, it's only senior non-residents, along with our regular guests from card-carrying members, and that senior non-residents do not have guest privileges.
What's a senior non-resident?
Based on one of our other policy statements, it's an individual that is 45 years of age or older.
I'm going to ask Mr. Zarig, do we have a way to distinguish non-residents and how we treat non-residents in bowling from a cost perspective or from a preferential sign-up perspective or hours or anything?
Mr. Chairman, we always try to put the residents first in all of our leagues, if that is a possibility. We are always looking for residents first to fill open vacancies in all of our bowling leagues. Can I give you financials about how many non-residents and how many residents are bowling? I can tell you for non-resident sign-up cards right now, we have 877 non-residents bowling in our facility. They are all over 45 years of age.
And do they all have to pay for the card?
They pay $35 per person.
So there is a distinction, there's a financial distinction?
Yes.
Is their bowling rate different?
It is for open bowling.
It is for open bowling. So
Yes,
there
sir.
is a distinction on rates?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
there is.
So we've distinguished the fact that the non-resident has to pay for a card, and they also have to pay additional lane fees. Yep, okay. I'm not sure I understand your distinction here, Mr. Kleckner, because I think that we've already addressed how we're going to treat senior bowlers or whatever. I mean, I don't understand. Please talk into the microphone.
Let's just say that a non-resident living out in Surprise brings his wife and 2 children. We can assume that the wife is probably 45 years or older, possibly, but the children are not. Since this is a senior community, the thought is we're really, other than our own grandchildren and so on, are who we want to have in the area. We don't want to have people that live outside the community and their children or grandchildren.
How would we treat that, Mr. Zarig, when someone from the community decides they want to bowl here? What are the conditions that would they would have to meet to be able to bowl here?
One of the adults would have to be over 45 years of age.
And so that would satisfy the scenario that Mr. Collector just,
Well, that would satisfy the rules that we know as they are.
yeah, thank you.
But they would not satisfy the rule that is in the governing bylaws. The governing bylaws clearly say.
What is your
senior non-resident-
suggestion that we do? What do you, it's one thing to talk about, I found a discrepancy here. What we need to have is some kind of resolution and your suggestion on what you propose that we do about that. So
Well,
I would ask you to explain that to me.
Well, first, I would like us to follow the bylaws that say that if you're not at least 45 years of age, that you're not going to be bowling in our establishment unless you are a card-carrying residence guest. There is nothing in any of the policies that I've read that allows for a non-resident to have guests. And if they're less than 45, they would be guests of that person. I'm saying that the age limit to bowl here should be 45 or older.
So so what are you proposing? What's your proposal? Because we need to address this policy. And the way it had reviewed, the recommendation from the reviewer that it stand as written. Now, what you're telling me is something has to be changed. You have to tell me what it is that you want changed. But it has to be done. It needs to be done so we can all look at it. It has to be redlined. We have to identify the new verbiage that you're proposing.
The BO policy, I believe, is BO3. Non-resident bowling is incorrectly titled non-resident bowling. It should be.
We're not going to change the bylaws. That's not what we're trying to do.
That is correct.
Okay.
We're trying to correct the policies. In this policy, it references non-resident bowling, and there is no such thing as non-resident bowling. There is only senior non-resident bowling. And it's an age differentiation by the use of those words.
And don't we specify 45 years, Mr. Zarek?
Yes.
Yes, we
Mr.
do.
Zarek,
Yes, we do.
I think we're splitting hairs here.
Mr. Chairman, the reason I recommended no changes is under 2.0, under authority, it states clearly that the Sports Pavilion manager and the general manager of Sun City West have the authority to grant or deny requests regarding any bowling at the facility. And so I would assume that between those two, if that became an issue of somebody underage coming that was with non-residents, that those two would work out something, bring forward a change in policy recommendation to this board. But the way it's worded, I would prefer that it be left up to the bowling pavilion manager and the general manager to work out that detail.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments? Yes, Gloria?
So that would mean Mr. Zarek would have the ability to post or put something up that says non-resident cards are not valid for residents under, or for guest bowlers under the age of 45 in that case. So he would be able to do that, according to this?
I think that we're splitting hairs here, because we could probably find any number of specific scenarios that, that we'd have to start posting notices on. With the way it's written here, it's open, and Mr. Zarek has the authority, or Mr. Erno have the authority to permit them to bowl. So I don't think I want to get into, that's an operational issue. That's not a policy issue. This is an operational issue. It's not a policy issue. We've already defined what a non-resident is. So now this is a matter of who are we going to let bowl? And we've already delineated it that Mr. Zarek and Mr. Erner have that authority to do that.
I would just add that in the pecking order of priorities, the policies fall below the governing board general powers.
The policy that has been written has been recommended that it fulfills the requirements of, that incorporates all of the provisions of the bylaws as well. So do we have any other discussion on it? Do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have any questions online? Okay, then we're going to, we'll take a verbal consensus to let this, yes is to support Mr. Falcone's recommendation to forward this to the governing board for review, and a no is no, it needs further work. Okay, we're going to start with you, Sherry. Falcone?
Yes.
Fulkerson?
Yes.
Cooker?
Yes.
Ray?
Yes.
Carol Card?
No.
Mr. Kleckner?
No.
Okay, we have a consensus. Five, two. It'll be forwarded to the governing board. Okay, our next policy is, was jointly reviewed by Terry Fulkerson and Mr. Robert Edge. And I think Terry is here to report on that.
Bob and I met to discuss the resident cardholder guest bowling, policy 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. We discussed each point to where how we understood it to make sure it was very clear and understandable, and we found everything to be very clear, straightforward, and have no suggestions for changes at this point.
Okay, do we have any comments from the committee? Do we have any from the audience? Do we have any from, okay, so I'm just going to ask for a general consensus on this one. Sherry?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Okay. So that takes care of our policy reviews. In December, we will have 3 policies to review. They have been assigned, and just to refresh everybody's everybody's memory, Carol Card is reviewing 03, which is non-resident bowling. Mr. Kleckner and Deborah Coker are reviewing bowling tournaments and bowling special events is 04, and Gloria Orion and Sherry Gingrich are reviewing 05, which is bowling leagues. But that will be on the December agenda. So the next item on our new business is 4.03, and we've had a considerable amount of discussion and activity on this particular item. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to ask Mr. Zarek to comment if it feels necessary. This says it's a sports pavilion and food and snacks policy. It's really not a policy. Policy is done by the governing board, and we recommend changes in policy. So this is really more of an operational directive, because this is an operational issue. So we have a new operational directive has been written, and it really loosens up the ability for our bowlers to bring food in. What we're trying to do is to keep things away like a buffet or someone bringing supper in for the group. So for things like cookies and cakes and special events, there are provisions that they can be brought in simply by notifying the bowling management of that. So, and that has been in effect for how long, Mr. Zarek?
Almost 2 weeks.
So can you give us just the brief amount of time that it's been in effect, how that's been going?
It seems to be going very well. We've had no issues. One person brought in Dairy Queen. We just told them that they weren't going to be able to do that. Some of the late arrivals here from the north they don't know the policies. So we're not having them throw their food in the garbage. We're just telling them that the next time we prefer they buy food from Pete's Cafe. So we are kind of directing them, no Taco Bell, no Burger King, no McDonald's. If you want to bring in a plate of cookies, nobody's going to stop you, as long as it's just a moderate amount, not to fill the whole bowling league. Birthday cakes are fine. Halloween candy exchange is fine. We left a lot of gray area so that people can still enjoy themselves, because a lot of these things have been going on for 20 or 30 years. These people have been doing exchanges, and I don't think it was ever our intention to stop that completely. But we are trying to support Pete's Cafe, and that's really the bottom line, is where we are. Thank you.
But this isn't just to support Pete's Cafe. This is the whole issue of we're not going to be draconian about what they can bring in, and we want to have that sense of consent. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Kleckner?
I wasn't clear on, since we're all talking about support of Pete's Cafe, how does this apply when Pete's Cafe is not open?
The management has had discussion with the cafe, and they have extended their hours, I believe, or at least they're more vigilant to the hours. Gary, how would you handle is it Mondays that he's closed, or is he open on Mondays now? He's on Mondays, so, yeah. So how do we handle that when he's not there? The same rule would apply?
We've had a meeting with him, and we have explained to him that a lot of our bowling leagues, when the guys want to have a snack after, don't start till well after 8 o'clock. It's 8:30, 9 o'clock before they get started. So our suggestion to him was, particularly Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights, that perhaps he stays open until 9. And as of this time, that was our conversation about 10 days to 2 weeks ago. And as of this time, he has not done that. So that's kind of where it is, and I have no answer to what's going to happen at this time.
Is it within the provisions of our contract, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, and if you can't, I'm okay with that. Is it within the provisions of our contract to specify his hours of operation?
His hours of operation that he signed the contract for were from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Those were the hours that I found in his contract.
To get to Mr. Kleckner's point, there really isn't an answer other than the existing policy that we have for bringing in food from the outside for hours other than when he's not there. Okay? Okay. You understand that, Mr. Kleckner? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think it should be up for some more discussion. But right now, I really don't have anything to add other than that.
Well, I think if we, in a perfect world, we know what we want. We know that we want extended hours. We know that, that we want specialty types of foods that are being supplied. But from a contractual perspective, we're not there yet. So I think that any discussion of that would just be futile, because we all know what we want. We just can't have it right now. And I believe that the operational directive that's been issued is probably as generous as we can do for the time being. And we're just going to have to recognize that there is going to be a gap there for now. Okay. I'm going to ask for comments from the committee, and I'll start with you, Mr. Kleckner. You have any comment? Okay.
Nothing right now.
Committee member Card?
I've struggled all week with the issue that Paul brought up, and past experience on the Chartered Clubs Committee led me to the conclusion that if the door is open, someone's going to come through it. And I guess my bottom line is I don't see anything wrong with tightening up our policy on the non-resident bowlers so that we don't have a future problem with it, because if that door's open, someone's going to come through it.
My request is not to ignore that. My request is we're looking at our policies right now, and there is a procedure in place that you tell me what you want, tell the committee what you want, and have it in a format where we can see it, and not just a reference to another policy. So if you feel that there is, if you feel that there are changes that need to be made, I'm not going to sit here and tell you you can't do it. What I would tell you is put it in the right format, redline the items that you want to delete, and highlight in yellow. And that's kind of the standard way that's done, so we in the committee can see it, and so equally as important, so the governing board can see it.
And I agree with that, and that's how we've always done it in the past.
Okay.
So my thoughts are to encourage you to maybe go that route so we can all look at it again and talk about it once more.
Well, when you say look at it again, we're not talking about policy one. We're talking about the ones that you're doing. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Committee member O'Brien? Mr. Coker?
No comments.
I just want to thank Mr. Zurich for working with Pete's to get them open on Monday.
A little closer to them.
I know that the ladies on Monday have been thrilled with the fact that they can go in there and get snacks and drinks. So thank you for your hard work, Gary.
Thank you. Ms. Fulkerson?
No comments.
Mr. Falcone?
No comment.
Ms. Gingrich?
Just in reference to Pete's Cafe, I was there Monday night at 4 o'clock. It was the three of us. And I was telling Norman that their staff has probably some of the best customer service skills that I've seen. I like their up-to-date methods of payment. You can pay at the table, you can scan. It's really kind of high-tech compared to what a lot of restaurants have. I still wish that Pete could somehow reconstruct his menu so that not everything is deep fat fried, and that there are some healthier choices, but I think that's a long-term concern that will have to be addressed over time. But I think in order to encourage more people to come in, and I do see more people on Monday nights, there are bowlers that are actually getting food, and what's really nice is to see that brought to them instead of having to go get it like we used to do. And I think it's a start, but it's going to be slow, and then as, more of the residents return, they're going to have to find their own likes or dislikes and then maybe make some comments. But I think he's a good guy. I've talked to him a few times. His heart's in the right place. It's just somehow he has to figure out how to make his food a little bit more in the right place.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the audience? Do we have any comments from online? There's none. Our next meeting will be December the 11th at 1:30 p.m. It'll be here in the lecture hall. It is 2:08, and this meeting is adjourned.